We're going to start by talking about those Club World Cup quarterfinals. Real Madrid versus Borussia Dortmund. It ended 3-2 to Real Madrid. They're in the semi-final. And, stoppage time was chaos in this game.
Madness. Absolute madness. And, yeah.
Dortmund could have nicked it. They'd have gone into extra time, a man up as well. But Thibaut Courtois saved the day.
It was all very Dortmund, though. For them to, not do it in the closing stages, for them to go out, it's just, the winners of the, the hearts and minds sort of trophy. Where everyone
you think there's an element with them where it's a bit like everyone loves them, and if you want to go on a weekend away and watch a football game in Germany, have a few beers, go to Dortmund, take a quick video of the yellow wall, ultimately... they don't win anything. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's just a bit cringe, really. But yeah.
I love it. For those who have missed your output on the Football Ramble, straight back in it. You're kind of having a bit of a dig at the hipsters, which I enjoy.
Yeah. I'm going to get caught miserable in the comments after this straight away. Which I love, by the way.
I'll tell you
somebody said, "Oh, David was really bright and perky." I'll be like,
I'll tell you what really sealed for me the call up into the chair was when you on Twitter called Dave Brailsford what was it, a little weirdo cycling freak?
Yeah,
in his capacity at Man United.
Just
talking my language.
A little man with a big head and lycra, you know what I mean? It's just, Do we need him in football?
No, probably not.
There we are. Well, we do need Real Madrid in the Club World Cup because, as they said at the start of it, it would be fitting if they were to win this tournament. And I mean,
they said that, didn't they?
They did.
It was them who said that.
They're
very
massively
much so.
serious about it. I mean, they paid the money to get Trent in early for this.
And Dean Huijsen as well.
Yeah, and Dean Huijsen as well.
Yeah.
They wanted them in and they see the serious. And also, I think
he got himself sent off, didn't he? Thanks, Dean. Thanks for that, Dean. Cheers, Dean.
I think there's a bit of ego involved as well. They've seen PSG get all applauded, win the Champions League, get all applauded, suddenly become the in team, and then Florentino Perez is like, no, we're not having that. It's Real Madrid here.
Yeah, so. Well, I mean that is. I hate to use this word for the Club World Cup, but it's a blockbuster semi-final.
It is.
Two of them. You have to say, Luke.
I'm not against you talking up this competition in that way with a view to get more people to listen to this show and for us to do better.
But sign up to DAZN. What?
No, don't give them that for free. Don't give them that for free.
It exists and everyone knows.
DAZN came to meet us and then went and did something with the rest is football. So fuck DAZN.
Did they really?
We're not giving them any props on here.
No.
I like the Club World Cup. I've enjoyed the football. Yeah. I wish the broadcaster was better.
Find a hooky feed rather than sign up for them.
Yeah, exactly. I feel for the people who will have to end their subscription after this tournament with DAZN as well. Because it is ridiculously, notoriously hard to just cancel it and just say, I don't want this anymore.
Lots of places are like that. You sign up on an app, you pay whatever you pay, and then if you want to cancel it, you got to go on the website, you got to sign up again.
I've got to ring a number. Oh no,
I'm not ringing a number. That's too far. Not in 2025. I'm not ringing a number.
Surely not.
Can I take it back to Real Madrid and Borussia Dortmund?
I think we have to
expand on what Dave was saying about Dortmund kind of falling short. I mean, their record against Real Madrid is a pretty poor one, right? They haven't beaten them for a wee while, but the games do always tend to be quite dramatic, and there is a scoreline element which really plays into the kind of Death Star versus the plucky underdogs. And it always seems to do. I mean, there was. I guess the Champions League final is pretty comprehensive 2-0 win for Real Madrid, but they played each other
in the end. Yes,
they played each other in this year's Champions League, right?
Yep.
And Madrid beat them 5-2. It was a mental game. So this was kind of similar in a way of 3-2, a lot of drama towards the end, as Marcus said. And interestingly enough, as well, you've got the aforementioned Gonzalo Garcia, who looks to be kind of getting headlines, and Arda Güler as well.
Yeah.
He's in amongst it, a couple of assists. People gave him man of the match as well. So lots to talk about. And I think actually the kind of game perhaps that does further stoke the fire of the Club World Cup, because if you want it to stick and you want people to like it, it needs to start to build its own history. So Al Hilal beating Man City,
yes.
Real Madrid and Borussia Dortmund having a ding dong. That kind of stuff is what lends itself. So I guess not just because Real Madrid are going deep, but FIFA will be pleased to have this kind of game happen.
Are you going to apologise to Gianni?
No.
Okay.
I think he's a bold freak.
All right. I think he's got away lightly, actually, with that.
Yeah, I know. I was running for the things I can say and not get in trouble for.
Indeed, yeah. He's a prat. Something.
He's a fucking prat.
A1 prat.
Yeah, he's a prat.
Absolutely, yeah. Gonzalo Garcia, though, as mentioned there, fourth goal of the tournament. Only played 6 times before for Real Madrid. He'd only played 6 times for Real Madrid before the Club World Cup. Now the favourite for the Golden Boot, David. He seems like a handy little player.
Yeah, it's interesting. He's been banging them in at youth level for a few years, and then when he's got promoted to Castilla,
he scored loads for them last season.
Even in the Juvenil A, which is the youth team, the top level youth team, he was banging them there. I think it was like 23 and 25, or 24 and 25. So he's been known about, and also he's just a striker who doesn't really come through, type of striker that doesn't come through much in Spain. He's very much a fox in the box type. He's really, really smart in and around the penalty area. Hold up play, he's got a bit of that as well, but he's a finisher and he just knows how to feed on scraps. And sometimes a team needs that. And I think Real Madrid are really happy because they had somebody like that in Joselu, who we of course remember performed heroics. And Gonzalo Garcia might be able to do it, or they might just cash in on him and just.
I love a player that gets his scraps.
Yeah,
you don't get enough players getting their scraps these days.
No, you don't. But it's interesting when you describe him like that. I was thinking to myself, other than the aforementioned Joselu, when have Real Madrid had a striker like that who's kind of featured quite prominently? Because if you think about, for years it was Benzema.
Raul.
It's not that type, really. I think
they relied on.
They brought in Van Nistelrooy as well.
Van Nistelrooy
was that type.
Not for long though.
But you're going back a few years, though.
Yeah.
Raul was, of course, a lot more than that, but Raul was a totemic forward that he always used to rely on who would score goals.
Indeed, but even further back than Van Nistelrooy. It's lovely to see.
Yeah, I agree.
And it could happen to a nicer club.
Why can't listen, Gonzalo? If you're listening, why can't you be more like Raul?
What about one of the other chaps called Fran Garcia? The left back. He's been playing for a little bit now. He looks like a little hard man, and I quite enjoy that.
He's cracking. He fancies himself as a little Sergio Ramos type. He
does, doesn't he?
And I have a lot of time for him because again, another one who succeeded in the youth academy, and then they said, "Look, we haven't really got space for you." Went out on loan, did brilliantly at Rayo Vallecano, came back, and I think every time he's a player who every time he steps in, he does a good job. And there's always a role for somebody like that at Real Madrid. I think we've seen it Lucas Vázquez over the years as well, who's just always stepped in at every single position on the pitch. Yeah. And I think Fran Garcia will be somebody like that as well.
And in among all these young players, Kylian Mbappe did score a lovely. What do you call it? Put
me in the mind of Mark Hughes.
It was a Mark Hughes-esque volley.
It was a scissor kick.
Yeah, okay, we'll go with that.
Some people mistakenly reported that as an overhead kick. It wasn't that.
We'll go for the scissor.
It was a Mark Hughes scissor kick, in my view.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah,
but obviously after that, Borussia Dortmund then straight from kickoff did almost a bit of that FIFA cheat code thing where they just sort of ran it from kickoff, and then Guirassy was slipped in. Obviously, you mentioned Dean Howson was given a red card. They scored the penalty, and for those who didn't see it, with pretty much the last kick of the game, Sabitzer, former Man United man, has a shot which, I mean, it's a brilliant save from Courtois. He may feel that he might have done a touch better with it, considering the way the ball was set up for him. And if they'd have scored that, they'd have gone into extra time, a man up. But they didn't.
They would quite simply have lost on penalties.
Exactly, yeah, true. Yeah, and Real Madrid, it saved them winning on penalties.
Would have trundled on.
Real Madrid will face Paris Saint-Germain in the semi-final. Kylian Mbappe will come face-to-face with his former side. For the first time since his exit last summer, Luke, it's the game that everybody may or may not have wanted.
Get your Fluminense shirts out now.
Yeah.
Because that is the only hope for having an enjoyable winner of this tournament.
Yeah.
Luke, I don't like to put you on the spot. No. And I don't like to push you for an answer.
I don't like being put on the spot either.
No, you often go in on yourself.
Yeah.
But I am going to do it now. I'm going to give you the option of Chelsea, Paris Saint-Germain, or Real Madrid to win this tournament. Who are you taking?
God.
I'd like you to rank them, actually, while we're here.
Okay, I'd probably go Real Madrid first.
Okay.
Because they are genuinely a big club.
Right.
Then probably PSG second because I have to deal with them. And they're in France. Right. So that's easy, a bit more distance. Yeah. And then third, my third choice would be Chelsea to win it. But the top choice of all the teams left in it would be Fluminense.
100%.
Yeah. Because it would objectively be great that a South American team won it.
Very much so.
Yeah. And also, I think one of the most appealing parts of this tournament was just seeing a Brazilian team, Argentinian team against a European team.
In a competitive game,
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what made it interesting. And this was the thing that everybody figured. They were like, we really hoped after all this excitement over the Brazilian Argentinian teams that we don't end up with just 4 European giants at the end.
And we almost have.
And we almost have.
Yeah.
Because the Argentinian teams will be super disappointed that they didn't go through to the knockouts.
They are, but this kind of works out probably for the best because the PR around those teams have been good. Because if Boca had to face River, I think the ugly side decider that may have.
What, in the final? Imagine that. Come on.
I tell you what, the US quite literally wouldn't have known.
Trust American law enforcement. That's all I'm saying.
And I do. Take that in the spirit. It was set, please, for crying out loud. Right, let's move on quickly to PSG 2, Bayern München 0. Again, chaotic injury time in this match as well. PSG won the game despite finishing with 9 men. 2 red cards, David, surely.
Yeah.
You can't complain with them.
No, you can't.
One of them was a lovely little elbow tap on the face.
It was just a little tap, but it's enough.
Yeah.
I think it is enough.
I think he'll feel, and look, I don't advocate anyone.
He'll feel he's 31 miles an hour done in a 30 zone.
Exactly that.
But
You've been done.
Yeah.
Well, actually, at the chief sorry, David, but at the chief constable's discretion, depending on what county you're in, you can get away a little bit.
10%.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. Speed cameras can't.
You're speaking to a man who's done more speed awareness courses than you. Trust me. But I think if you are going to get a red for that, I'm not suggesting you want to break someone's nose or give them a lasting injury, but I would have liked to have, if I had the time again and it was me, I'd have liked to do a little bit more force just to make it worthy of the red.
Agree.
Because it was, like you say, it's 31 of the 30 stuff, that.
Yeah, you might as well get there on time.
Yeah. It's a red by the current book. I mean, it's not really a red in my book, but it's a red by them.
Really? Okay.
At the moment. It's just
David,
your prison rules. You're Sunderland coming through there. You're prison rules kind of guy.
David, yours would be a book I'll be very much willing to read, but it is a very controversial book that divides generations and generations. So
why is that not a red for you? Because it's not forceful.
No.
Do you feel it's more
in it? Just use a bit of common sense. It's not dangerous.
Yeah. Didn't endanger the life of the player, as Neil Warnock said.
Yeah, exactly. If the life's not on the line, is it really a red? It's a...
there was a horrendous injury, of course, in this game. Jamal Musiala picked up a very serious one. I mean, that was shocking.
Yeah, it was. It was horrible to see. It was one of those ones where you see it happen and you think, oh, I don't want to look at that again.
Yeah, it was.
So imagine what it was like for him, you know.
And you could see the players were shaken up. I mean, Donnarumma as well. It's obviously a complete accident the way he goes over on Musiala's leg, but
it was horrible.
Manuel Neuer wasn't happy about it. He said it was really, really reckless.
Yeah, because Manuel Neuer up until that point was quite content with his position of having the most pointless leg break in Bayern Munich history when he went skiing without permission. So he was like, "Oh, that's worse than my one. That's annoying." I don't know why he's going in on Donnarumma there when Donnarumma clearly.
I have to say, I'm not sure that take is particularly
tasteful.
No, not what I was going to say. Go on then, carry on.
Well, I was going to say I don't understand why Neuer's piling in on Donnarumma, given that Donnarumma clearly didn't intend to hurt him.
Yeah.
I don't think it was particularly reckless.
Yeah.
Donnarumma made a decision that the ball was there to be won.
You see goalkeepers do that.
Yeah. And what's happened is, in my opinion, there's been a kind of, obviously a terrible outcome that is not really where there's not really anywhere the blame can be laid, I don't think. And then, because of the society in which we currently live, there has to be blame because otherwise there's a vacuum and people can't talk about it enough. And so Neuer ends up coming up with this stuff.
So now, if you're not blaming Donnarumma, who are you blaming then?
No, I am blaming Donnarumma, but I'm saying that look.
No, I understand what
maybe
point
people
you're
listen don't agree and they think this is a bad take, and that's absolutely fine. And you guys, weighed in by all means. But ultimately, I think it is a truism about modern society that we have to have some kind of narrative and blame
explanation.
You can't just have an accident.
We can't understand things without an explanation.
Exactly.
Sometimes these things just happen.
You're playing in a sport which is fast paced, full of highly tuned athletes who are strong, and they impact each other with force pretty regularly, and very, very rarely actually an outcome like this happens. Yep. And we need to be able to understand that that's sometimes the cost of doing business.
Yeah, I mean, it's an absolute...
Doesn't make it look worse better for Musiala.
It's a sickener for Musiala. It's a sickener for Bayern as well, because an injury of this sort of magnitude, if you like, happening in this tournament is going to get the conversation going again in Europe, as if I'm sure it would already be going on about the point of this tournament, really. I mean, it's such a serious. He's going to be out for at least 4 months, which I was surprised it was as little as 4 months. Actually,
so apparently he avoided the ankle break. Right. So if it was ankle, it would have been double, treble.
He's dislocated the ankle, not broken.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the fibula.
Yes, that's right.
Which is the issue. But it leaves also. I mean, it's terrible for Musiala. I mean, it was a big season ahead for him. I think in that Bayern side. and they're already looking to try and bolster their attack as well. So this is a big blow to them, who still particularly want somebody on the left side. So it's going to be a lot of pressure on Elise. It might see Elise's position change for Bayern.
Yeah, I mean, I know Marcus Rashford was making kissy faces at some of the big clubs in Europe. I mean, it'd be outrageous for them to maybe have a bit of interest in him, but that's just pure speculation from me. It was Thomas Muller's last game in a Bayern shirt after 17 years at the club. I mean, might they even think of, keeping him on? It seems unlikely.
I think it seems unlikely, and I think he's going to be off to MLS or somewhere like that. I think
just stay there. Not going to get his flight back. I'll stay here.
He likes the hot weather.
What an amazing player he's been over the years.
That's at end
class.
Incredible, incredible pro. Really good.
Yeah, one of those players where you think, what does he do well? And he kind of just does everything well.
Yeah, brilliant. Especially he's not exactly the modern player.
Yes,
this big hulk and amazing physical athlete.
Not particularly quick. He's not done that.
But you know what's interesting about that though? If you cast your mind back to when he kind of drifted into our consciousness as England, British-based football fans, it'd probably be that game against England in 2010 for Germany, where he was at that point. We were in our position going, he looks like a super modern player. He's able to take up positions. He's able to run. He's able to peer between the lines, run England ragged, along with a couple of other players as well. And yet over time, he's kind of graduated into a bit of a throwback. Really,
but you're talking about definitely. 15 years ago.
I am, but I'm just saying it's quite interesting the journey he's had.
Well, indeed. But
if he was in a Bayern team with Mateus and Kahn and of that ilk, he wouldn't look out of place. Basically, he looks like set for that era. And he's always been about intelligence. He's
also an absolute penis as well.
Do you think?
Yeah, typical archetypal penis of a footballer, which I admire it.
Yeah, proper Bayern club man.
Just some very odd humour.
Yeah,
he was telling a joke and he's leaving, and I was just like, I had no idea what that.
He's worse at delivering a joke than I am.
Yeah.
But he sticks at it, like me, I guess.
I was going to say, you're the Thomas Müller of the show.
Neither Thomas Müller or I get deterred.
Yeah, true. Well, Bayern obviously go out. Shame for them, but PSG march on, and they are the European champions. They want to be world champions, and you wouldn't put it past them, David, because even when they were down to 9 men, Bayern, you think to yourself, you've got about 5 minutes here against 9 men to grab an equaliser. No, it was PSG who doubled the lead.
Yeah, they're just an excellent team. I think they're on a different level to everybody else in Europe, and discussed this on the continent across the course of the season, just saying how special they are right now.
I mean, that Hakimi assist for Dembele.
Yeah, he's an unbelievable
Maradona
player,
stuff,
absolutely flawless. And then the boy Doué scoring again as well, who I think's just wonderful.
He's really announced his arrival on the big stage, do they now?
He's special.
Little mention, Marcus, from you for the beautiful British referee Anthony Taylor officiating this game. Nice to see him.
Nice to see him. He
got amongst the action, didn't he?
He did. couple of reds. They are, Harry. Give it obviously.
Do you think he wants to be there as well? The players are clearly like just.
The referees love it, don't they?
Do you think?
Oh yeah, if you get a tattoo if he does the final.
I think Anthony Taylor just wants to be around a pool with Wayne Lineker and a couple of meddling Premier League
careful,
players,
you can't.
Just chilling.
You talk about a man like Anthony Taylor in the same style as Wayne Lineker. That's disgraceful.
But as you just said there, though, it would be among other Premier League players, and I don't think he wants to see any footballers. It'd be like a teacher seeing your pupils. Almost.
Yeah.
He'd be like, they don't want me here. I don't want to see them.
Yeah.
He wants a strawberry margarita in his hand, not a red card, mate.
True. But you can get them in
Imagine
other places.
that. Would that send the right message if he went to send a player off, but instead of doing a red card, it was a really deep red strawberry margarita? You're off. Cheers.
Yeah, and a Capri Sun for the yellow. That wouldn't work, would it?
No.
Orange.
Sunny Delight, wouldn't it?
Sunny Delight.
It's Sunny Delight for the yellow.
There we are. It all makes sense in the end. On the other side,
makes a lot of sense.
On the other side of the draw, Chelsea beat Palmeiras 2-1. Into the last 4 they go. Lovely goal from Cole Palmer. Don't leave him unmarked on the edge of the box. As soon as, I forget who it was who slipped it through to Palmer, I just thought the defenders seemed to kind of, or the defending players just seemed to kind of part ways and leave Palmer a bit of space, and he took his goal beautifully. Although the second Chelsea goal, you have to say that the keeper could have done a bit better there, Luke.
Went down as an own goal. My highlight was that this all came up Chelsea to such an extent that even the guy who scored a fucking brilliant goal for Palmeiras is about to play for Chelsea.
Yes.
You can have that one.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It couldn't have worked out better.
Which bus are you getting back on now?
Yeah.
Because you're going home.
That's right.
So do you want to just stick with us?
Yeah.
Amazing, really.
Yeah, wonderful.
Incredible the way modern football works.
It's quite interesting that Cole Palmer was trying to have a word with him after the game. Apparently, Estavo doesn't speak a word of English.
Well, it makes 2 of them.
Football is a unifying language.
Yeah.
Chelsea have signed Jamie Gittins from Dortmund. Decent signing. They do love a wide player.
They absolutely adore a wide player.
Yes.
Is that because Modueke's off?
And Madueke is off.
Yeah.
Mudrik's not coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And weirdly enough,
Sancho's not there.
Speaking of that link, weirdly enough, Chuck Wemeka came on for Dortmund, didn't he?
That's right.
Yeah.
And he's from
Chelsea,
Chelsea
as well.
Chelsea are involved in every single player trade.
They absolutely love it. And Joao Pedro, of course, made his debut for Chelsea, coming on as we thought he might. But Jamie Gittins, though, I mean, as I say, they love a wide player because the way Maresca plays, he loves width and he wants to have options. And they have Sancho's left the club, and as you say, one or two others. So I kind of get it in one sense. But they are stockpiling wingers now.
Yeah, and they played against another one they've got coming in Eshtival.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So,
he played more central, didn't he?
Yeah, he plays more central, but he can play out wide. He'd be the one out of them all who I'd be most looking forward to as a Chelsea fan. I think he's the one with exciting, something a bit different about him.
Just so there's no confusion, David is not a Chelsea fan.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, he's not.
But I think he made it pretty clear with the Fluminense chat earlier.
He quite simply wouldn't be here, would he?
I'm going to make sure by the end. No, why would I do that?
I'm behaving like it's my choice.
Well, Chelsea, of course, will face Fluminense on Tuesday. They beat Al Hilal. Now, FIFA have cut standard ticket prices for the game at the MetLife Stadium in New Jersey from a modest $473.90 to just $13.40 in the space of 72 hours. The dynamic pricing is biting them on the arse. When Gianni
it's certainly dynamic, the pricing.
Yeah, did you? Well, when Infantino said, dynamic pricing's amazing, I think he didn't realise it also works the other way.
Yeah.
Is it though? Like, where has he got that from? When has it ever been amazing? It's just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it's stuck around $200, $300, I think, for the other game, for Real Madrid PSG.
Yeah.
So that's gonna it's gonna be very, very dynamic pricing there.
$13 though.
I'm going to buy one and not turn up.
You can't do anything in London for $13.
I was about to say. Oh, blimey, O'Reilly.
Would you still want one for $13 though? Would you actually go if you were there?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
Souvenir?
Yeah.
If I was in the area and I had nothing else on.
I just don't think I would. I just don't care.
I would.
Yeah, Marcus is a sucker for all football. I mean,
not all of it.
It's double that to go to Madame Tussauds.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's rubbish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't do anything in London. But get in touch and tell me what you can do in London that's good for $13, which is what, about tenner?
You could visit the Kingdom of Sweets.
That's terrible.
That's free to. It's a shop that's free to walk into. I don't think that really counts.
You could spend. I've misunderstood the question.
Yeah, you have a bit. Yeah.
It's not what you could buy for $13.
It basically costs me around $13.40 if I want to get a train on the tube to work.
You could get on the oldest underground train system network in the world.
Yeah.
What a privilege.
And do you know what the first station was?
Yes.
What is it?
Well, don't you know?
I do know, yeah.
Oh, well, then we don't
Let's find out if David knows. Do you know what the first London Underground station was?
I'm not even going to try. I don't have a clue.
Baker Street.
Yeah, all right.
And the next one didn't come till like a year later, so I don't know what they were doing.
Oh, right.
Just a U-turn.
They were just so pleased with themselves.
Yeah.
It was just a bar.
Yeah. So I think we can all agree the ticket pricing has, as promised, been very dynamic.
Incredibly dynamic.
I love it if Infantino got on the pitch in front before the final in a Liam Gallagher style, saying, "Hey, you enjoyed the $4,000 you pay for the tickets, do you?"
Enjoy the $13.
$13, yeah.
Oh, dearie me. Elsewhere in the States, of course, MLS is currently well underway. And the Gold Cup reached its climax as well. Mexico beat the US 2-1 in the final. Mexico back-to-back winners now of the Gold Cup. And again, incredible when you watch those games, how well attended it was and the passion around it and so on. It was, to be quite frank, rather different to the Club World Cup that's going on.
Considerably so. And I think there's an unbelievable passion around the Mexican game as well. And I think Mexican football is in a really, really good position. And I think Americans will be looking on a bit enviously at different things there, because Liga MX is a much better standard now.
Yes,
they're attracting stars, but they're also producing their young players as well. Yeah. So they're in a really, really good position. And the US are a funny one because they keep getting players in good positions in Europe, decent teams as well, but they don't seem to be progressing when they link up together with the US team.
Indeed. During that game, Raul Jimenez scored an equalising goal for Mexico, which was obviously Mexico's first, and he paid tribute to his former teammate Diogo Jota with it
was nice
the celebration.
Yeah. Actually, the tributes around, I mean, lots of different places here and abroad have been really touching. Actually,
well, cause obviously the funeral, people have seen the funeral for Diogo Jota and his brother Andre Silva happened on the weekend in Portugal. Just such sad scenes. People have been gathering and laying wreaths and flowers at Anfield in honour of Jota's life. And
It's happened so quickly.
Well, I think that this grief and this sadness that so many people have, this, understandably, it will continue. I think when the season starts,
absolutely,
and he's not there.
Yeah, of course.
It's
going to be even more emotional when those players turn up.
Yeah.
And considering, if you look at how he's been described as well, as being this just really down to earth, fun guy, really great personality. And that is going to be a big miss when those players turn up.
Huge. All the tributes have been about the person he's been, not the player he was.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's we all understand the player he was, but to hear that how much of a good person he was as well makes it even tougher.
Definitely. All right, chaps, let's go for a quick break.
What can you do differently on Monday to get a better result, do you think?
Score goals and not concede.
Is it as simple as that?
Well, it's football, isn't it? Got to score more than the opposition.
And how do you go about doing that? Because the team want to...
You tell me how I go about doing it. You tell me how I go about doing it.
Well, I'm not the manager of Cardiff City, am I?
Welcome back to the Football Ramble, everybody. Thanks to friend of the Ramble, Marie, for sending us that clip. The great Marie.
Always lovely to hear from Marie.
You can become a friend of the Ramble too for just $5 a month. There you go.
Yeah. So you could do for the same price of ticket for Chelsea Fluminense in the semi-final of the Club World Cup, you could have roughly 2 2/3 months Patreon subscription to the Ramble.
They are.
I'd much rather have. I know I'm supposed to say that because I'm on here, but I would much rather.
You should.
Yeah.
And what can you get for that, Marcus?
You'll get every episode of The Ramble on the continent and up front completely ad-free. You'll get access to the Football Ramble Discord where you can chat with us and other Ramble listeners and more. Search patreon.com/Football Ramble to get involved. A big shout out to Upfront, by the way, who covered England's opening game at the Euros, which of course was a defeat 2-1 to France. But they covered it with a lot of balance and nuance, I think, which I think was very fair, and it certainly made me feel a lot better about things. So do go and listen. I mean, I did. I said to you before, I had the old Han Solo bad feeling about this
before the game,
yeah. And when it started, England were obviously on the front foot. They were quite there was a bit of chaotic energy. They were good, but I felt it was more chaotic rather than controlling energy.
Totally. And I think actually...
And they didn't make it count.
No, they didn't make it count, but they came very close to actually getting out of there with a draw, which would have been daylight robbery.
To be honest with you,
because they were second best.
Losing 2-1, you never know with goal difference and what could come into it.
Next game's massive.
Yeah, the next game is absolutely huge.
I bet you'd sell your own grandmother to get Wales next, but they've got Netherlands.
Yeah.
So by the time Wales comes along... It could be, because you'd fancy them to beat Wales, but
yes.
it could be that it's not going to matter. So they've got to really double down and get on it for the Netherlands game. Because I saw some parts of the Netherlands game against Wales as well, and they kind of went through the gears. And I think they'd be dangerous.
There were a couple of decisions, though, in that France match.
That offside decision was insane.
The offside decision.
Head should roll for that. It was totally unacceptable.
So they should have had a goal.
Yeah.
And also, that challenge on Leah Williamson.
Yeah.
How was that not a red card?
I know what you mean, yeah.
Like, when it happened, the commentator sort of went, I think they're checking red card. I was like, that is a red all day long.
Yeah. Well, I think the red card... I agree with you of that assessment, but I think those types of decisions, there is room for referees to interpret things. The whole point of... I know, you know what I'm saying, though? Offside, that's just a basic mistake. They've looked at the wrong arm.
Fine.
They've literally looked at the wrong person's arm.
I mean, that is piss poor.
And so you cannot expect to keep your job by doing that. They have to take accountability for that. Because
it's as bad as that person who put the South Korea flag up when it was North Korea playing in the Olympics.
It is as bad as that, Marcus, I think. Very strange reference. Wasn't expecting it, but I think I know what you mean. I just think, the old cliche of goals changing games, England were second best against France overall. They didn't deserve to get anything out of the game. But you never know that Alessio Russo disallowed goal was so early, you knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's disappointing, but they've got a chance to put it right against Netherlands. Hopefully they get a different VAR official.
Indeed. Well, you can find Upfront by scrolling back to yesterday's episode on the Football Ramble feed, or search Upfront to get every single episode you need throughout the Euros. Now, let's move on to Arsenal. They confirmed the signing of Real Sociedad midfielder Martin Zubimendi for just north of £55 million plus add-on. I mean, they've wanted him for a couple of years, apparently first discussed in January 2023. Some reported that when they were trying to deal with Real Sociedad, they said, well, we'll take Mikel Merino in the summer of 2024, and then, we'll have him in the summer of 2025. Anyway, all that aside, it's a fabulous signing for Arsenal, David.
Outstanding. I only really see a couple of players in his position better than him around the world. I think Arsenal have looked at things and they want their own Rodri. Everybody wants a Rodri, of course.
And came on for Rodri in that Euros final. Sorry to remind us all, but when they beat England, of course.
Yeah, and he's very, very similar in many, many aspects. I always said when Rodri first came through that he was the player closest to Busquets that I'd seen. And then Zubimendi, I'm kind of like, he's the closest to Rodri that I've seen. So he's ideal, I think, and really, really composed, calm individual as well.
But he's different though, because he moves different to those two players, doesn't he?
Yeah, he moves
people will
different.
be confused. Like, maybe football fans like myself who don't know that much about tactics will look at him and go, I get you that he's playing in that position and I get that you're saying that's the role. But it's so interesting how it looks to me the way he moves and the way he interprets the role is actually quite different. But you think he can be as effective as that?
Absolutely.
He's the brain, isn't he?
It's that little anchor just in there, linking everything together. And I think Arteta would be hoping by the end of the season he'd be looking at it and say, right, this whole team is now built around him. I don't think they just want it around Odegaard.
Yes.
They want somebody else to develop play from deep.
Totally. I mean, if you think about it, if there's a midfield three of Zubimendi, Rice and Odegaard. Now, I know Odegaard dropped off a bit last season, but, we know he's a fine player. I tell you what, that is tasty.
On paper, it's very good, and I think it might potentially allow Declan Rice to do what we saw in the Champions League games when he was allowed to push forward a little bit more. And
that's what they've been crying out for. Basically.
Yeah.
And I think Odegaard with the break through the summer, a lot of rumours knocking around Arsenal that because obviously Jim and producer Rory go to Arsenal all the time. I went a few times last season. You speak to Arsenal fans. A lot of rumours flying around that Odegaard had been carrying an injury for quite a long time, and maybe he felt like he couldn't get it sorted because it was key for Arsenal for him to play because he's obviously captain and an important player for them. And he definitely dropped off. He definitely looked like, as Jim has said before, like reluctant to use his left foot that much and all the rest of it. If he can have a summer off, Zubimendi comes in and they can keep those three in midfield consistently. It's exciting for them.
It is.
I'm not suggesting they're going to do it. The joke would be to say, I wonder who they can finish second to this season. But they'll probably be second.
They need quite a bit more for me to make a proper assault of it in the Champions League and the Premier League. They still need a few more signs for me. I'm not fully convinced yet.
Well, the reports are they're in advanced talks to sign Victor Gyökeres.
Yeah.
Which again, he's a proper forward, and if they do get that business, which we expect them to do, then I've talked about it enough times, but I felt that this striker position, the Arsenal of old, you remember the whole defensive midfield saga nonsense. It took them years. Everyone was like, why are you not addressing that position? Yeah. It's so blatantly obvious for everybody. Yeah. And I wondered if it was going to be like that with the striker. I think that the situation was so stark that you've got a guy who's playing in a midfielder in Marino who'd never played up front, who's covering for you, starting a Champions League semi-final.
Did all right as well, by the way.
And did all right, exactly. Yeah. So obviously they had to do it. But with old Berta, lovely Berta in there.
Yeah. Sometimes we think he's a dream, Marcus.
Well, indeed, and I think we are.
Yeah. He's all around the place, gallivanting all around Europe trying to get deals done.
If they can get Gyökeres over the line, it's an exciting signing because, it's him. Šeško is the other one who's obviously been very highly rated and linked. And Victor Osimhen, who doesn't seem to be that much interested in him. No. A lot of people. So these are the strikers really who are at a premium. Yeah. So if they go out and get Gyökeres, who's a man in demand, it's like that's impressive.
It is. It's a great signal of intent and it answers a lot of queries about people who's like, why didn't you just go and buy a 9 like you've touched on? And forget this obsession with buying goalkeepers and midfielders and actually get somebody in there. And I still think they do, and they might do it because they're linked with Noni Madueke, obviously. I think they need cover in wide areas as well. Mm-hmm.
So you don't think, because people question Madueke and thinking, well, hang on a bleeding minute here. How many Chelsea players have we seen go to Arsenal and not do that well? Yeah. You can reel them off. There's so many, and it seems like some are sort of saying, I don't get this from Arsenal. I actually take a slightly different view because I think, does he improve that squad? I think he does.
I don't
think he would necessarily improve.
I think what's a bit of a sickener though is that they were linked with Eze, weren't they?
Yeah.
And if you
and Rodrigo.
Quite.
Yes.
I don't want to be too disrespectful to Madueke because I think his ceiling's probably quite high, and I think Chelsea's quite a difficult environment to thrive in for obvious reasons. But I think if you're coming in there off the back of them being linked with Eze, and I forgot about Rodrigo, but Rodrigo as well. But particularly Eze, because Arsenal fans will be very familiar with Eze and how dynamic and exciting he is. It's probably a little bit disappointing. But Madueke's on his day, he's a serious operator.
I think it's a really good signing. This is honestly, this is one I'd be.
It's interesting because I think from picking up on things, I think people are questioning why. Surely Arsenal could do a bit better or not. But I would creep more towards what you're saying, David. I think it's. Yeah, if it's just Madueke and maybe they don't get one or two others in the attacking positions, I think people might sort of say.
I get that. I get it from that angle, but it looks like they're getting Gyökeres as well.
Yes.
So that makes sense.
So if you get Zubimendi, Gyökeres, and Madueke, you're saying it's a good summer.
Well, and that's a very good summer. And also that's about an 8.5 out of 10.
Oof. Yeah, and keep Nwaneri as well. Because people are after Chelsea are after
that's going to be key. Yeah, I couldn't believe when I saw that. I was like,
because again, if you cast your mind back just a few years, it would be what we come to see would be Nwaneri goes to Chelsea and wins trophies there, and Madueke doesn't really do much at Arsenal. But I do think, what I'm talking about there is perhaps, it is a few years old, and I think, Arsenal are distinctly better than Chelsea. So from Madueke's point of view, if indeed he does go to Arsenal, he's making a step up.
I think it's an excellent move for him. I think it's an excellent move for Arsenal. Chelsea clearly have an abundance of players in the position, so I think it works out for everybody, to be honest with you.
Yeah, fair enough.
Gyökeres is great because the thing I like about Gyökeres is he looks intense.
Yes.
He looks full on.
Yes.
And he looks like, I always feel like, and I think this is something that maybe a lot of Arsenal fans share, although, I won't profess to speak on behalf of them, but I get the impression some of the frustration around the players that Arteta wants, they tend to be system players. And I think Gyökeres is going into a situation at Arsenal, given what's going on that you guys have talked about. They're desperate for a striker, so a lot of pressure on his shoulders. But he seems like the kind of character to be able to handle it. And what I also mean by that is he seems like he is lead from the front, 100 mile an hour all the time, really intense. And I think that might give all of them a bit of a lift, because the only other real player you get like that at Arsenal is Declan Rice, really.
I think this is a better move for them than Benjamin Sesko as well.
Yeah, I agree.
With Sesko, it's going to be a period of adaptation, building him up. And I think Arsenal are way further along than that. They need somebody who can come in now, get the goals to help them win the title.
Yes.
I really like the Ollie Watkins deal when they went for Ollie Watkins as well. I thought that makes a lot of sense. It's what they need. They don't need a 20, 21-year-old who needs to develop, who need to put an arm around. And, they need somebody who's 27 or whatever who can just come in, bang in 20, 25 goals. There's obviously a good feeling with Gyökeres that can get that.
Yeah. Of course, alongside all these stories and whatnot about transfers, a much more significant story broke on Friday. The Crown Prosecution Service announced that former Arsenal midfielder Thomas Partey has been charged with 5 counts of rape and 1 count of sexual assault. The incidents have been reported between 2021 and 2022 when Partey was an Arsenal player. It's understood that the club has been aware of the police investigation throughout its duration. His contract expired with Arsenal last Tuesday, but Mikel Arteta said in May that he wanted Partey to stay at the club. A lot of people angry with the way Arsenal have conducted themselves.
Rightly so. Rightly so. This is, this looks very, very bad for Arsenal and for Mikel Arteta particularly. He's the totem of the club, the spokesperson effectively for the club on all matters involving football and some beyond the football pitch as well, obviously in this position as manager. This is a terrible, terrible look for Arsenal. Of course, we have to understand and remember that, Thomas Partey's not been found guilty of any crime as we speak here, so we have to speak about this in a certain way and be careful what we say. But given that Arsenal have been aware of this, and Mikel Arteta's been aware of this for such a long time, yet they've continued to employ Partey despite unquestionably his behaviour clearly bringing the club into disrepute. And there's other precedent for this, by the way. This is not a huge, as controversial as it sounds. There's been other clubs in England who have taken decisions to, relieve certain players of their services because their behaviour's not been up to standard. And of course, there needs to be a code of conduct at top clubs for the way players behave. You don't need me to list the details, but there's a couple of very high-profile cases where players have no longer been retained by clubs because of the way they've behaved,
or been suspended, maybe,
or been suspended, or whatever. Yeah. So the fact that Arteta's delivered some highly, at best, questionable comments about Thomas Partey when everyone has known this has been going on, and the evidence is compelling enough for the Crown Prosecution Service to now charge Partey with this. We've seen the outpouring of frustration and disappointment by Arsenal fans, and rightly so. I feel the same as they do. I think the way that Arsenal and Arteta have handled this has been very, very poor, nowhere near the level it needs to be. And between them, they've brought the club into disrepute. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah. No, I think that's summed it up quite nicely, Luke. All right, coming up after this, a surprising transfer in Lancashire. Welcome back, everybody. Yes, Kyle Walker has joined Scott Parker's Burnley. They got him from Manchester City for £5 million. Walker, of course, played with Scotty Parker at Spurs for a couple of seasons. Well, Luke Moore, Kyle Walker, Burnley bound.
This is, I didn't see this come in, as I'm sure none of us did. But what's interesting about this is we've had a lot of discussions about how these promoted teams are going to handle and approach the Premier League next season. And we've got a mailbag episode tomorrow. We're going to talk about Sunderland with David, and he can give us a little bit of insight into Sunderland then. But on the Burnley thing, Burnley have been as tight as a submarine door. That's their thing. That's what they've not conceded goals, right? And they've got a back four and back five, I suppose, who are the vanguard of that. And they lost CJ Egan-Riley. Yeah, they have, right? So they've lost him. He's been key for them. And now they're going to bring in Kyle Walker, presumably to play on the right side of a defence, who is known for loving to get forward and massively relying on his recovery pace as a younger man. Yeah, but makes mistakes, right? Yeah. That's basically the typical kind of assessment.
But in his prime,
Walker,
as you say, with that pace.
He's not in his prime anymore, though, is he? And that's the point. He's going to be playing in the Premier League. It's not like he's playing for Burnley in the Championship where you go, okay, the experience he's got, the level he's been at, he could handle that. This, to me, is a signing that smacks of, I need someone that the players can look up to. I need someone who's achieved so much in the game. I need someone who can set an example at Premier League level. Yeah. But we don't know the arrangement. How much is he actually going to be able to play? And if he does play a lot, what does that mean for Burnley?
I think it'll be interesting to see because, look, Burnley play a particular way and the way that they set up that might not expose some of Kyle Walker's deficiencies now, as he has declined.
In the Premier League?
Yeah. Genuinely.
Do you think they're going to keep this? I mean, I suspect they will, but this ultra-defensive approach. The reason why I say that is because he tried that a bit with Fulham. Now, I know that was a few years ago, and you would think and hope that Parker has evolved a little bit as a coach. But when he did that with Fulham, it was all about keeping it tight at the back, and they didn't score many goals. He famously never played Mitrovic. And Fulham ultimately went down. Yeah. They would keep the odd clean sheet here and there. They were difficult to kind of break down, but they just never scored. They never, and that's my worry for Burnley is that we may see a bit of this. That Burnley, yes, they defend admirably, and for a side who are a promoted team, probably won't concede a lot of goals in the Premier League next season. But I just think where are the goals going to come? You've got to score if you're going to stay in the league.
Oh no, 100%. And look, I think they might be losing their goalkeeper as well. So
yeah, that's a huge part of this.
They're holding that for a lot of money, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. So they might lose their goalkeeper as well, which piles a bit more pressure on them. But I don't know. Parker doesn't really strike me as somebody who would, I don't know, adapt sort of thing and learn from that. I can see him saying like, this is the way we play. We're going to continue this. This got us to the Premier League. Why change it now?
It's almost like the reverse Vington Company in that he tried to be a bit more expansive.
He'll probably think, I'm going to play the same way. Yes. We'll try and add a bit more quality.
That would be my concern.
In steps Kyle Walker.
But you lose. You say you played the same way, but if the keeper does go, which people expect, and they've lost three of I mean, if they're going to play Walker, that means they've changed 3 of the 5.
Yeah.
Going into the new season.
I mean, look, and maybe he won't. Maybe we're doing him a disservice.
He kicked off at Bournemouth. As you talked about, he kicked off massively at Bournemouth because he can do what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so
is this all prime for Gary O'Neill to come in? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, what happens with Parker at Bournemouth is really interesting in retrospect because he clearly had a really strong desire to do what he wanted to do, and he felt like he wasn't being supported, and he had his principles so dear to him that he walked away from a fucking massive opportunity. Right. The Fulham one's also really interesting.
I mean, that was earlier on. I do stress.
Well, I think it's the same way you could say. Like, I remember, and David is our appointed Northern football correspondent for today. You might be able to tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure James Trafford struggled badly in the Premier League last time he played as a younger player. He got dropped for Muric at one point. Now he's clearly improved. So if he can improve, I'm sure Scott Parker can improve as a manager. So you don't want to be too hard on the guy, but and also the other reason you don't want to be too hard on the guy is because it's very difficult to come up with a way that promoted teams can stay in the Premier League.
Of course, but you can understand the concerns though.
I always go back to the time I interviewed Graham Nassau years ago, and he played at the back for struggling Premier League teams towards the end of his career, and he said that, it might have been when he was at Southampton, I can't quite remember, but he said that the stated aim and ambition for the team by the managerial staff in pre-season was, we're going to keep this as tight as possible and we're not going to concede, and that's because we can't afford a striker. And he said like 2 or 3 months into the season, the pressure you were under was unbearable because you knew if you conceded, you weren't going to win.
Yes.
Because you couldn't score.
Absolutely
and
right.
So you've got to be careful about approaching it in that kind of overly negative way anyway,
Absolutely right, yeah.
But it's I mean, look, it's good to see Walker doing another season in the Premier League. He's been an amazing player.
The move was announced, by the way, with an edited version of Lionel Richie's "Hello."
Yeah, I didn't like it.
No, I don't think it works. It's getting a bit silly.
I think if you don't get it right, it looks ridiculous.
Yeah, Burnley's social media team's been very good as well. I think this was a little bit.
You're only as good as your last viral video, aren't you, David?
Exactly.
As we at the Ramble know far too well.
Well, indeed we do. Now, perhaps this is an odder transfer that happened at the weekend. Libertines frontman Pete Doherty made a brief cameo for Isthmian League side Margate FC. They said that they signed him. I mean, obviously, the Libertines are the shirt sponsor.
Yeah.
That's what's going on down there. It was a pre-season friendly, so everybody calmed down. He took the kick-off and then got subbed off a few moments later. I would have loved it.
To be fair, he did about 4 or 5 minutes.
Did he?
It wasn't a few moments later. He definitely played a bit longer than that.
Well, I'd have loved it if he'd done a Kepper.
Oh, yeah.
Right, Pete. That's it. No.
No, I'm staying on.
Yeah.
I'm
getting to
They got beat, so he could have stayed on.
They lost 3-2, yeah.
Yeah.
Great to see him, though.
Yeah, it was good on him.
Yeah.
Doing his thing. Helping to fund non-league football. Fair enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they've set up shop in Margate. They've been there for a few years now, the Libertines.
Yeah, they have.
I did enjoy him. He wasn't even wearing shin pads.
No.
He had his little hat on.
The hat as well. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Take the hat off.
Yeah. I think that was very much a man who is quite clearly not as fit, shall we say, as the other players involved. With the hat on, it's give the ball to feet.
Yeah,
it's give the ball to feet. I'm not competing in the air for anything.
I don't think he was very fit in his 20s, was he?
I think if you can get away with a lot if you've got a bit of ability as a forward in a non-league team. If you stay between the width of the penalty area, and you are going to have to get your fair share of flick-ons though. You can't have a hat on.
Yeah, that's true.
You're going to have to fight really hard to win second balls and stuff like that. So it's probably not going to work for him.
True enough.
I hope he turns out for the rest of the season. I suspect he probably won't.
I don't think that's likely. Now, gentlemen, I want to go to China and talk about something quite incredible that's been going on there. Chinese football club Chanshan Shidu have been fined over £3,000 for placing feudal superstitious items in an away team's dressing room.
Yeah.
The incident took place last month against Shaanxi Chongde Ronghai.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The producers put it
up all night he was. Up all night he was.
This is the 17th take. Yeah. Photos have gone viral online showing yellow paper charms inscribed with messages such as "By decree, Shaanxi Chongde Ronghai must be defeated." A statement from the Chinese Football League said the club had breached Article 115 and 116 of the Federation's Discipline and Ethics Code. I love it. I love that that's written in the code. Do we have anything like that in the Premier League?
Yeah.
I think we might have to.
And Changshan Shidu won the game as well.
Yeah, they're second in China League 2, as if I need to remind you.
Yeah, everyone knows that.
And they won 2-0.
Yeah. So obviously, I don't know I'm not.
You're not across this.
I'm not inherently sensitive to the customs of Chinese life, so I could be missing something pretty obvious here.
I don't think anyone's going to hold that against you.
No, but what? So it's just a piece of paper, though, right?
Luke. I thought you weren't going to be insensitive.
No, I'm just saying.
What's special about the paper, though?
It's interesting, isn't it? The differences in cultures is what I'm saying.
And that's why it's Article 115 and 116.
They've obviously got. I'm
surprised it's that low. I thought it'd be in the top 10.
What are the other ones? They've obviously.
What's 117?
Yeah.
Was it just a post-it note? I'm thinking like a yellow piece of paper.
To us, it would be a post-it note, right?
Yeah.
Saying, "Oh, well, you're going to get beat today."
Yeah. You shit.
Yeah.
And that's what and that's it.
All I'm saying is Barry Fry did a lot worse than that.
Barry Fry did an awful lot worse than that.
Yeah. Barry Fry used to put the heating up in the away dressing room in the summer to like the highest it would go.
All that business. Turn off the heating in winter. Yeah. He used to. Barry Fry's a man after your heart, or was.
Yeah.
He did say, didn't he? He said, when he kind of finished managing and whatnot, he said, when I look back on it, he said, do I think it helped us out? Probably yes, a bit, and probably no, because it pissed off the team, and they thought, right, we're going to have you lot. So
give them more motivation.
Just mind how you go when you're writing on pieces of paper by decree, and then you list your sentence.
If the Federation's Discipline and Ethics Code is there, and you contravene it, you bang to rights. You're getting a hefty fine.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah. Well, I mean, but I think you could do some sort of reverse by psychology here. By decree, I hope they have a lovely time.
Yeah, when you make them feel really comfortable.
Exactly.
And
I thought for a minute there, I thought they were in breach.
Like when Roy Keane was talking about the players getting the massages and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I know you agree with him, David.
Yeah.
Right, let's finish the Football Ramble today with something incredibly important. We've had more listeners getting in touch about famous bottoms they've seen.
Yeah. Bum holes or just bums?
Come on, Luke.
It's important.
Don't use the word hole. It's too. There's no need for that.
Okay, sorry.
Who's
your favourite band fronted by Courtney Love?
Well played, sir.
Yeah.
Right then. This from Rob Shard. I once played a six-a-side game against a team featuring Troy Deeney.
Oh, good standard.
A powerful one, I'm thinking. Our opponents were friends of Deeney, and after watching his team struggle to a 4-0 half-time deficit, he decided to take matters into his own hands. He frantically changed from his joggers into his shorts.
I love that. He's wearing tracksuit bottoms.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, giving us all a glimpse of his backside. And then partook in a second-half turnaround. They bit a 6-5. And I can confirm he has an excellent arse. Brackets, not hull.
He just saw the arse.
Yeah.
He just saw the arse.
Yeah,
I can imagine. I mean, any professional athlete of that level,
you'd hope so,
is going to have an excellent arse.
Yeah.
You'd hope so.
It's unthinkable.
But Deeney, you think it's powerful, isn't it? And he would use it. Imagine a defender, him kind of giving you the treatment.
Backing into you.
Yeah, all that business.
Yeah.
Well, one of the best arses in football history is Kenny Dalglish's arse.
You reckon?
He used to use it as an amazing weapon to protect the ball, shield the ball.
Imagine John Hartson.
John Hartson's another good example. Another good example. Yeah.
I always thought Hazard had the best arse.
Hazard as well.
His arse used to
Ivanovic,
yes,
lovely one, and of course John McGinn.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, some great ones there.
Cheps.
Yeah.
What about this from Graham Rutter? Further to Jim's story earlier in the week about spying on an adjacent Brian May at a urinal.
He's not a footballer.
And the suggestion that Brian's hair downstairs may be similar to the hair on his bonce. It is widely known that Brian supports a luxuriant syrup for public appearances. For those who are not from the UK, syrup is slang for wig. Yeah. Syrup and fig, wig.
Here we go.
In private, he is presumably a notable egg. So if Jim saw Brian in his public persona, he may have been sporting a merkin in his nethers to mirror his head. If he was appearing incognito, he'd probably be hairless in the groin region.
Merkin. Which is
Rob,
a pubic wig, and I'm sure everybody knows that.
Graham has very kindly ended his email to us by saying, anyway, great thread for the show. The Ramble is always at the cutting edge of key topics in the beautiful game. Welcome. Happy to do it, Graham.
A key topic in the beautiful game. Yeah. We're talking about Brian May's pubic hair.
Yeah, or lack of it, potentially. I didn't actually know Brian May wore a wig in public.
Is that true?
I didn't know that as well.
That's news. I thought he at least had a Turkish job, but no, apparently not.
Oh, is that right?
You seen him in real life?
Yeah.
Jim saw him at a urinal.
Yeah, no, mine was, I think it was years ago. It was a friend of mine had free tickets to a thing called the Riffathon. And it was at the old Hammersmith Palais.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, I know, Luke, I know.
What?
Yeah. And
the Riffathon? How are you getting in there?
Well, I wasn't participating. Mate of mine got free
I've just Googled it.
Yeah. Is it
on this day in 2005,
there you go.
The second Riffathon happened at Hammersmith Palais.
Hammersmith Palais, which is now a gym, actually. But Hammersmith Palais, a famous venue. The Clash wrote a song about it, White Man in Hammersmith Palais.
Jimmy Page. Brian May.
Yeah, that's right.
Dan Hawkins of the Darkness.
Yeah.
And had been asked to judge a number of guitarists as they played their best riffs.
Yeah, they were all there.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
How about that?
I never knew that was a thing. What was it like to attend it?
Oh, it's just those who saw it could never speak of it.
I was about to say, you just had to be there.
Riffathon. What year was it?
What, 2005, as you said?
No, that was the second one.
Oh, that was the second one.
The first one.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was before I moved to London, so I think it was probably early noughties. Yeah.
Were you loving it? Were you air guitaring in the aisles?
I think.
Was Cliff Richard there?
Yeah. Despite my hope and belief that he may be. No,
you at the Riffathon. Who were you with? Who were you with?
A couple of mates who got the free tickets.
Just a great night out.
What? It wasn't. I think
what was your riff?
Do you know what? I think it was an afternoon actually.
Was it? Lovely afternoon, Marcus. Marcus, what did you get up to yesterday? I've just been watching riffs in Hammersmith. I've been in Hammersmith watching riffs.
And later I would of course live in Hammersmith in West London.
Yeah, it called you back.
I was going to say
the power of the riff.
Is that why you decided to live there?
Gosh,
Just the memories there.
I'll tell you what, when I turned up, it became Glamour-Smith.
Fucking Riffathon.
What's wrong with that? You're jealous, aren't you? You'd have fancied that.
Every day's a Riffathon for me, baby. You know, James Hetfield's got Riff Life tattooed on his knuckles.
Has he really?
Yeah.
My goodness.
It's acceptable for him to do it, though.
I think so.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
Although he is starting to look a bit like Wayne Lineker, which is disappointing.
Very disappointing.
Yeah.
But, surgery can change that.
I'd love to see him smack 7 bales of shit out
come on, there's
Wayne
no need
Lineker.
for that.
That'd be good. They're both of equivalent age. It'd be a perfectly fair fight.
Someone did assault Wayne Lineker recently.
Not me.
Thanks for listening to the Football Ramble.
So glad to be back.
I don't think it was James Hetford either. I'm not advocating it in reality, am I? For God's sake, Marcus, get back to your Riffathon.
We're all back tomorrow.
The only way I want to assault someone is with my powerful riffs.
We're all back tomorrow for the mailbag.